Angelina Landry thought she embarrassed me. She thought she staged the perfect humiliation, a luxury restaurant, a full table, a carefully chosen audience, and a blonde replacement wife seated right next to my husband. She delivered her line loud enough for two nearby tables to hear. "Maybe a cheap bar fits you better, sweetheart." She smiled when she said it. What she didn't know was that she was standing inside a restaurant I co-owned. And I let her finish the performance. "My name is June Selenas. I'm 31 years old. I negotiate contracts for restaurants across the Carolinas. I handle vendor pricing, supplier agreements, cost ratios, distribution logistics. If you've ever sat at a table and complimented the quality of the olive oil or the tenderness of the steak, someone like me calculated that before it ever reached your plate. It's not glamorous work, but it's precise. And I was raised by a woman who believed precision wins wars quietly. I grew up in Odessa, Texas, inside a diner called Rosie's. My grandmother opened it in 1983 and never once let it fail, not through recessions, not through new competitors, not through suppliers trying to cheat her on meat weight. Grandma Rosie taught me something when I was 9 years old, and a vendor tried to short her on ribeyes. "Don't yell at the counter," she said. "Change the numbers in the ledger." She didn't confront him. She switched suppliers. 3 months later, he was calling her asking what he did wrong. That lesson stayed with me. It came back the night Angelina tried to humiliate me. I met Dominic Landry 4 years ago at a backyard cookout. He had an easy laugh and a way of listening that made you feel seen. He worked in commercial insurance. Steady job, smart, kind. We got married 7 months later. Fast, yes. But when you grow up watching your grandparents finish each other's sentences after 50 years, you think you recognize real love. What I didn't account for was Angelina. The first time I met her, she looked me up and down like she was evaluating resale value. "What does your family do?" she asked. I told her about Rosie's diner, about biscuits from scratch and Christmas tamales. She tilted her head. "Oh, how quaint. Dominic has always had a soft spot for strays." "Strays." She said it lightly, like a joke. It wasn't a joke. Over the next 3.5 years, Angelina perfected what I can only describe as social erosion. She didn't scream, she didn't insult directly. She suggested I dress differently for brunch at the country club. She forgot to include my name on the family holiday card. She once introduced me to a neighbor as Dominic's first wife, then laughed when I froze. At Thanksgiving last year, she told Aunt Paula that Landry looks better on a mortgage application than Selenas. People chuckled. Dominic squeezed my hand under the table. And on the drive home he said, "That's just how she is." That sentence did more damage than any insult. Because it meant he wouldn't stop her. Here, what Angelina never understood about me. I don't react emotionally in public. I document privately. 22 months before that dinner, I made the biggest financial decision of my life. My friend Nena Cavallo, a chef I met through work, came to me with a business plan. Upscale Southern fusion, downtown Greenville, seasonal sourcing, high-end experience. She had the culinary vision. I had the numbers. I invested $52,000. 8 years of disciplined saving, plus $21,000 my grandmother left me when she passed, along with a laminated card that said, "Make it grow." Bellwood opened 12 months ago. Nena became the public face. I stayed invisible. Silent partner. Because I knew something about the Landry family. Anything Dominic knows, Angelina extracts. If she discovered I co-owned a profitable restaurant, she would twist it. She would claim I used Dominic's money. She would question my legitimacy. She would attempt involvement. So Dominic knew I helped a friend with some startup money. He thought it was maybe 10,000. He never knew the real number. He never knew Bellwood netted $387,000 its first fiscal year. He never knew my share was nearly 200,000. Some people stress eat. I stress invest. 3 weeks before the dinner, Angelina called. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. We are celebrating Dominic's promotion, she said. I booked Bellwood. She told me dinner was at 7:30. She told everyone else 7:00. A week before the dinner, Dominic's sister Kelsey called me after 2 glasses of wine. Mom invited Laura Whitman, she said quietly. Laura, blonde, polished, pharmaceutical sales, single. Angelina had been showing Dominic pictures of her for months. She understands how our family works. Kelsey told me Laura would sit next to Dominic. I sat in my car after that call ended and stared at the steering wheel for 11 full minutes. Because something else had been sitting in my mind for months. The transfers, small deposits in our joint account. Venmo from A. Landry. 18 months, $14,600. I do financial tracking for a living. You don't hide numbers from me. I never confronted him. I waited. The night of the dinner, I wore navy. Simple, controlled. When I arrived at Bellwood, the table was already full. 7 place settings. 7 chairs. Dominic in the center. Laura at his right. Angelina glowing at the head of the table. No seat for me. The hostess looked confused. I'm sorry, the party is complete. Angelina approached slowly. Oh, June, I wasn't sure you'd come. The specials are in French tonight. Maybe a cheap bar is more your speed. 2 tables heard. The hostess froze. Dominic saw me. He did not stand. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not heartbreak. Clarity. Angelina thought this was humiliation. I saw opportunity. I smiled. You're right, I said calmly. I must have gotten the time wrong. Enjoy your evening. Her eyes lit up. She thought she'd won. I turned toward the door. Then instead of leaving, I slipped down the staff hallway. Into the back office. My office. I texted Nena. Bring the ownership binder. She arrived in minutes, furious. I was calculating. 3 objectives. First, the bill. Full tasting menu, wine pairings, desserts. Everything on Angelina's card. Second, the reveal. Monday morning, cream envelope, co-ownership certificate, my signature. 3 words, thank you for dining with us. No explanation. Silence hits harder. Third, Dominic. Sunday morning confrontation. Statements on the table. Conditions. Transparency. Repayment. Counseling. Boundaries. Not emotional. Structured. Out in the dining room, Angelina ordered another bottle of wine. Laura leaned closer to Dominic. Kelsey subtly shifted seats. Nena personally plated the bourbon pecan tart. Angelina called it divine. I watched through the security monitor. And for the first time in 3.5 years, I wasn't reacting. I was moving. Sunday morning felt quieter than it should have. The kind of quiet that doesn't mean peace, it means something is about to change permanently. I was already awake when Dominic came downstairs. Coffee brewed, 2 mugs on the table, 18 months of bank statements spread neatly between them, every transfer from A. Landry highlighted in yellow. $14,600. Not a fortune. But not the money that mattered. The secrecy did. Dominic stopped halfway into the kitchen when he saw the papers. He didn't ask what they were, he knew. He sat down slowly. For a long moment neither of us spoke. I was going to tell you, he finally said. No, I replied calmly, you were. That's the thing about numbers. They don't argue, they don't exaggerate, they sit quietly and tell the truth. You've known, he asked. For 6 months. He flinched. 6 months of watching him accept money from his mother and say nothing to me. 6 months of waiting to see if he would choose honesty on his own. He didn't. He started explaining. Tight months, insurance commissions fluctuating, his mother offering help. It didn't feel like control at first, it felt like support. Every time I tried to say no, he admitted, she made it sound like I was rejecting her. That part I believed. Angelina never forces. She wraps obligation in affection. You're not a bad man, Dominic, I said quietly, but you've been acting like a dependent son instead of a husband. That sentence landed. He stared at the table. I don't want to lose you, he said. Then this is what happens next. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't cry. I laid it out like a contract. Full financial transparency, every account open, every transaction visible. The $14,600 repaid from his own savings, not replaced by more of her money. Couples counseling, appointment scheduled within 2 weeks. And a boundary conversation with Angelina in our kitchen with me present. No side conversations. No secret calls. No emotional loopholes. If any of that didn't happen, I would contact the attorney whose number was already saved in my phone. I let the silence stretch after that. Dominic didn't argue. He didn't get defensive. He nodded. I'll call the counselor tomorrow. It wasn't redemption, but it was the first time he chose clarity over comfort. Monday morning, the envelope was delivered. Cream cardstock, Bellwood letterhead, my initials embossed subtly in the corner. Inside, the co-ownership certificate filed with the South Carolina Secretary of State. My name, my signature, my investment stake, and 3 handwritten words. Thank you for dining with us. I didn't call. I didn't text. I waited. Kelsey called me that afternoon. She opened it at the kitchen island, she said. Read it twice, then she just sat down. Angelina checked her credit card app next. $2,147.73. Then she called Dominic. For the first time in his life, he didn't answer her. Kelsey told me Angelina didn't speak for almost an hour. Silence feels very different when you don't control it. By Tuesday, Angelina attempted damage control. She called Aunt Paula. She hinted that I must have used Dominic's money, that maybe the investment wasn't legitimate, that she had concerns. But here's the problem with lies. They move slower than documents. Kelsey had already told Paula the truth. Angelina wasn't humiliated publicly. She was quietly exposed. Which is worse? Laura Whitman was the final piece. Kelsey reached out to her directly, explained everything. Laura wasn't angry at me. She was furious at being used as a prop. She texted Angelina, "Please don't contact me again," then blocked her number. Angelina didn't just lose control. She lost narrative. And people like her survive on narrative. 2 weeks later, Dominic and I sat on a beige couch in a therapist's office on East Washington Street. Dr. Annette Sorensen listened more than she spoke. Third session, she asked Dominic a simple question. What are you afraid of if you disappoint your mother? He didn't answer right away. Then he said something that surprised both of us. I've always confused her approval with safety. That was the first honest sentence I'd heard from him in years. He admitted that every time he accepted her money, he felt smaller. But small felt familiar. Familiar felt safe. Dr. Sorensen turned to me. What changed for you that night at the restaurant? I didn't hesitate. I realized I didn't need to win a fight. I needed to change the system. Because that's what this was. Not a dinner. A system. Angelina controlled with money. Dominic complied to avoid discomfort. And I stayed quiet to preserve peace. That night at Bellwood, I stopped preserving peace. I started building boundaries. The conversation with Angelina happened 4 days after our second counseling session. At our kitchen table. Not hers. Not neutral ground. Ours. Angelina arrived composed. Pearls structured blazer, the look of a woman preparing for litigation. Dominic spoke first. He told her he had repaid every dollar. He told her we were in counseling. He told her there would be new boundaries. Angelina tried to interrupt. He didn't let her. You don't get to comment on June's background, he said calmly. You don't get to undermine her, and you don't get to insert yourself into our finances. She laughed once. A sharp, dismissive sound. I was helping you. No, he replied. You were making sure I stayed dependent. Angelina went still. That's the moment power shifts, when the person who always controlled the room realizes they're not controlling it anymore. She turned to me. You think you're better than us now? No, I said evenly, I just don't need your approval. And that was the difference. She left without finishing her coffee. No door slam. Just a quiet exit. The loudest kind. Weeks passed. Something unexpected happened. Life felt lighter. Not perfect, but stable. Dominic began stepping into conversations instead of shrinking from them. He declined 2 invitations from his mother without consulting me first, something he'd never done before. We weren't magically healed, but we were building something different, something adult. Bellwood continued thriving. We signed a seasonal contract with a farm cooperative in Traveller's Rest. A food writer from Charleston reached out about a feature. My investment continued to grow, and I realized something important. The restaurant wasn't about revenge. It was about proof. Proof that I didn't come from quaint. I came from capable. 4 weeks after the dinner, Lincoln texted me from the front. You're going to want to see this. I opened the reservation system. Angelina Landry. Party of ones. Saturday, 7:00 p.m. I stared at the screen for a long time. Nena looked over my shoulder. What are you going to do? I confirmed the reservation. Best table in the house. The one overlooking the courtyard garden I helped design. Saturday night arrived. Angelina came alone. No pearls this time. Simple black dress. She didn't perform. She didn't complain about the butter temperature. She ordered quietly. 3 courses. No wine pairings. When dessert arrived, bourbon pecan tart, she looked at it for a long moment before taking a bite. Lincoln told me later she ate slowly. Thoughtfully. When the check came, she paid without hesitation. And as she stood to leave, she asked Lincoln something. Is June here tonight? Lincoln didn't hesitate. Yes, ma'am, she's in the office. Angelina paused. Then she nodded once. And left. She didn't ask to see me. She didn't demand a conversation. She just left. And that's when I understood something deeper. Angelina never hated me. She feared irrelevance. And for the first time in her life, she couldn't buy influence. 3 months later, Dominic and I sat on our back porch on a warm evening. No tension. No unresolved conversations hanging in the air. He looked at me and said quietly, I didn't stand up at that hostess stand. I'll regret that forever. I looked at him. Then don't sit down next time. Marriage isn't saved by one grand gesture. It's saved by repeated small ones. And so far he was choosing better. I still think about that night sometimes. Angelina thought humiliation was the weapon. But control isn't taken in public. It's taken in silence. I didn't expose her at the table. I let her finish dinner. I let her enjoy dessert. I let her pay the bill. And then I adjusted the ledger. Just like Grandma Rosie taught me. Because you don't win by yelling at the counter. You win by changing the numbers. And this time, the numbers were finally in my favor.